Greetings, class, and welcome back to 4710. This is going to be the part 2 of Lab 3. Now, with part 2 of Lab 3, I'm going to be showing you a couple of different places where you can gain information for walkthroughs. Some of these, since we're using the OWASP Broken Web app, there's plenty of material online. I'm going to show you a couple of things. And the hardest one is probably going to be number 8, planning a backdoor or persistence into the server and prove that you've done so. So the easiest way to do this is to find some sort of application that you can do what they call a boot to root. And there's a way that we can kind of do 8 and 9 or 7 and 8 back to back depending on which application you're going to run at. But first off, we're going to run our OWASP ZAP application against the system, and that's going to take some time to do. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up my Kali box if I can find it. There it is. Okay, so let's go ahead and just initiate ZAP. And if this is a new install, you've never used it before, you'll have to initialize. There are other tools that you can use within the system of Kali, such as SQL map, that are very helpful in this lab. We may go over that just briefly as a tutorial, but for the OWASP ZAP portion, just pick one site. So I'm working off of 2 screens here. If you can go to the original and just pick one of these, maybe one that you're going to be using. So I'm going to be using Matilda 2. So I'm just going to grab that URL there. So put your IP in, whatever it may be. Mine is 1.23. And / MUTILLIDAE. And what that will do is that will focus only on that subdirectory, not the entire server, because we have like a couple dozen applications. Oh, hit attack, not select. I'm sorry. Okay. And as you see this, it's going to go through. Matilda is one of the larger ones we have out there. So we have application error disclosures. It gives you different types of code, path traversals. This is really just a really messed up application. Screenshot one of these here. And put it in your Word document. All right. Now, 7, 8, and 9 are going to be probably the hardest things you do in the class, because we haven't spent a whole lot of time on the SQL injection, it is one of those areas that takes a lot of finesse. So I'm going to be kind of lenient on these. The first one I'm going to go over, though, is if you are trying to do a boot to root or trying to gain root access in order to get a backdoor, because you need to have root access on a system to do a backdoor in one fashion or another, the best way to do that is to find an application that will give you this. So in playing around with this, I'm going to save you a little bit of time. I did find a application that will allow you to do that, because, and there are actually a few on here, but the Vicnum, VICNUM application is one of those that you can do boot to root. So I'm going to skip back and forth between my Kali box and my snipping tool and all kinds of other stuff here. There we go. So I'm just going to minimize OWASP, let it do its thing on Matilda. And you can take a snapshot of that or a screen capture of that anytime you want. And I'm going to come back to my web browser. So if you do your IP address /Vicnum, or if you go through the front page, this is just a simple number guessing application that somebody wrote that has a lot of cross-site scripting and SQL injection and session management issues. There's an entire tutorial on it. If you just do a quick Google search on OWASP Vicnum boot to root with a number 2 in it, you will find a walkthrough. So, believe everything is here. No. And that'll be the first one that pops up there. This has an entire walkthrough that you can go through. And some of these commands work, some of them don't. SQLi is very, very tricky, in particular, about how it wants to manipulate strings as they're going into a database and what type of information you get back. Also, I have found out that you have to kind of play around with the game a little bit, at least this specific application, and putting some numbers in so it creates some data for you to dump out. But a neat little thing about this is there's some SQLi that you can do right off of the bat to get information. One of which is, let me find it. There's a union all command. You miss it? Close. Yeah, this is it here. So if you do this command here into that search box, oops. Oh, not the union challenge. Actually, it's kind of confusing. You want to do this here. You want to go to this search box. You do that union command. See, no players were found. like I said, you might have to set up some. No entries were found. Might have to set up some different types of data by going back and playing the game a little bit. That's one way to do it. But once you can dump the password, you can do a boot to root. Another way that you can simply do a backdoor on the system is if you can crack a password with it, or dump a password from the OpenVOS scan, or from one of the applications that allows you to make a user. You can escalate privilege and get it that way. I'm going to be grading that one kind of leniently for this semester, given the shortness of time and everything else. So if you show an attempt, you'll be just fine. Okay, so let's kind of take a look at the Matildae. And if we go to Matildae 2, this is a really straightforward and application. If you use this for both 7 and 9, just use two different ones. I can use, I think it actually might not be able to do that. Injection SQL or injection other. Let's go ahead and stick with the extraction of data. Let's just straight across here. All right, that's going to take you to a username and password area. Page. And with this, you're going to use some SQL union commands in order to dump data and dump tables. You can find this again on several different websites. Matildae is a very common vulnerable system. Okay, so you need to work with your browser in order to do this, though. So you have to put it in a proxy mode in order for it to work. So to do that, you're going to have to go to Preferences, all the way down, and look at the network proxy. Okay, you have to set it up for a manual proxy. All right, click OK. Make sure that all those numbers are in there correctly with 127.0.0.1. All right, and then we're going to run burp. Okay, let's go ahead and click past that. When burp comes up, all you're going to do is a temporary project, start burp, all its default. Okay, and you just need to check a couple things. You need to go to proxy and options and make sure that it is set for 8080, because in your preferences, under your network proxy, it needs to be set for 8080 as well. So you'll have to set these parameters. Make sure you check that box. Click OK. Back to the Matildae tab. Make sure intercept is off on this, so because we're going to be doing it passively. That is under proxy intercept. It's on. Change it to off. All right. So we're going to be going back and forth a lot between different items on the web page. So what we're going to do is be working in the name field primarily. And in order to do that, we need to adjust this to where we are going to inspect element. And I'm sorry, this is running a little slow. I'm kind of crushing my processor right now. Wow, really crushing my processor. And as you can see, you have, once you hit Inspect Element, you should be able to scroll down and find okay, I'm having some technical difficulties here with my VM, and it's because my CPU is spiked because I'm using the Camtasia software at the same time I'm running the VM, and I don't know why I'm having this issue, but I think I might not have given my guest VM enough processor. So let me show you what was going on behind the scenes and the web pages I'm going off of for the Matilda Day piece here. So with this, I am just did a search on Matilda Day SQL dump, and it was the first link that came up. All right, and what I'm looking for you to do are these union select commands, or these union commands. So the first half of this web page is nothing but like setup for OWASP, BWA, and VM Player and Backtrack 5. When you get down to about a third of the way down, it looks like, you will see where you go into Matilda Day and start setting up the attack, where you set up the proxy for burp, you run burp, and you get that going. So that's kind of where we left off. For the rest of it, what I'm looking for you to do is get to the point where you are, you changed the string size so that the name is no longer 20 characters at input, it's 100 characters. You'll have to do that several times. Okay? And once you've done that, you can start inputting SQL strings into the name field. And the ones that are highlighted here, let me give you a little hint. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It didn't work with 5 nulls, but it did work with 7 nulls. 7 nulls. All right, and you start getting some of that feedback. Where you're going to try to get to is towards the end with the union select 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, again 6, 7. You'll start being able to dump the fields of the database, and you can see that where you see username, password, signature, etc. This is kind of what I'm looking for. And finally, the union inject attempt, where you try to pull out credit card numbers, expiration dates, etc. You'll be able to pull that out, and this is the screenshot. This is worth the jewels, where you pull out the username, the CVE number, the signature, the name, the password, etc. You show me some sort of data off of that, you're good. So you'll do that screenshot into number 9. All right. The back door, all I'm looking for there is some sort of method that you have used to log into the system or have persistence on the system. That can be done through, Armitage. It can be done through Metasploit. It can be done through a lot of different items. You can show me that you have an admin shell through one of the web applications. Again, I'm going to grade that very easily. Don't overthink it. Don't think that you have to do a who am I on a command shell and show me that you're root. That's not necessarily what I'm looking for. But from a backdoor is a very broad topic or broad concept. So don't overthink it. Last but not least, the report on Lab 1. You can use the template that you use from Lab 1. That's fine. Again, I'm just looking for a simple write-up of different types of vulnerabilities. Concentrate mostly on SQL injection, cross-site scripting as well. You can look into that. That's great. So I'm going to get this posted right now because I know we only have a little bit of time left in the semester. And you guys are looking for some help. Hopefully I was helpful. Hopefully I pointed you in the right direction with some of these websites. And I'll let you take it from there. Again, not looking to fail anybody on this. You're just going to have to put some time into it. SQLi is very time consuming, very time consuming, as I have learned over the last couple of weeks in trying to get this prepped. Anyway, this is Dr. Brown. We'll see you later.